Hello everyone, how are you doing? I'm doing great because I recently finished watching Junji Ito's Maniac, Japanese Tales of the Macabre, and I want to talk about it. The series hasn't been out long, so I'll start with more generalized opinions and then go into specifics later on in the video, so you can click off if you'd like to avoid spoilers. Okay, let's get straight into it. For those of you who might not know, Junji Ito is a horror manga artist with a really unique style and an incredibly vivid, creepy imagination. I was aware of his work prior to watching the series, so I was excited to see an anime coming out on Netflix. Each episode features one or more self-contained stories based off Ito's manga works. So, now that I've watched it, did I like it? Yes and no. As with any collection of stories, some you really enjoy, some are so-so, and some you don't care for at all. My biggest issue is some of the stories are so short that you don't have the opportunity to care about the characters before shit starts going down. And while it's very creepy and disturbing, it's like my heart doesn't really get involved. I love loving characters. I want to know who they are, see their relationships with their family and friends, their highs and lows, and feel the stakes of their life and the particular journey that we are witnessing. When we understand what kind of person they are, their actions hold more weight, connect with us more, and engage our hearts in their struggles. This is something I love about series in general and anime in particular. It's about the journey. But with these stories, it's often just a few minutes of setup before something insane happens. And while I'm interested in the event, I'm not engaged in the fate of the characters. And I find because the setup time is so short, it relies a lot on tropes as a shortcut to convey character traits and who you should like and who you should dislike. And yes, I know that's a whole thing in anime, but when it's mixed in with some unique character traits and interesting storytelling, it's not so bad and even really enjoyable. In other words, it can be done well and it can be done badly. For example, in Maniac, Japanese Tales of the Macabre, there's the hardworking, studious older brother and the annoyingly bratty younger brother who is always sucking on nails for some reason, and an ice cream man who takes only children for a drive around the town, a noble big brother with a dead mom looking for his little sister, a mean mother who loves her beautiful daughter more than the plain one and is devastated when the beauty might be lost. You know the kind of thing I mean, like you know what's up right away. Okay, now it sounds like I'm only saying bad things, so let's talk about some highlights. There are a few episode-long stories, and in general, these are my favorites. The more time given to telling the story and giving some background, the better. For example, there's an episode about murderous giant floating balloon-shaped heads that had me really invested. Also, one where a brother and sister bump a young girl on their way to a remote village and have to deal with the consequences of this horrible mistake. These build tension and spend some time with the characters and really get you involved in the story. And I really do like Junji Ito's style. There's something beautiful but unnerving about it. And the opening is great. Really sets the tone for a horror series, and the supernatural / creepy events that take place are really horrific, like truly disturbing. So many bizarre occurrences. Okay, now I'm going into spoilers. I hate that there are basically no happy endings and no way for our protagonists to defeat the evil thing in the story. Yeah! There's no point in rooting for any of the characters to prevail. It's just about enjoying the horror aspects of the tale. The stories are like fables or myths. Like, don't go to the river because a monster ate 2 little children, and this is the story of the 2 little children who were eaten. Which I suppose is why the series is called Japanese Tales of the Macabre. And for me, this kind of story can be a little bit difficult to digest. I just have the kind of mind that demands explanations. Why does this house turn into some revolting cesspit of grossness and disease? Why do the people and animals in this town turn into stone when they die? Why does this man turn children into ice cream? Why does this poor woman's hair murder her? I actually really didn't like this episode, where a woman is dumped by her boyfriend, so she decides to cut the long hair that he loved so much. And then the hair comes alive and kills her, decapitates her, scares her father to death, and murders the ex-boyfriend. And I'm just like, why must she die because of this asshole? And what about her hair makes it come alive? Like, why did it have to come alive while it was on her head? Why couldn't they have cut the hair off and then the hair becomes its own separate entity? Why did she have to die? Why must she die? And what makes it come alive? Is her brush possessed? Is there ancient magic infused into her shampoo? What causes this to take place? As you can imagine, my thoughts were like this for most episodes. I don't enjoy seeing characters suffer when they have done nothing to deserve it. In one episode, a man has a large and expansive library and is obsessed with maintaining it.
I was having a bad dream. My books were disappearing one after another.
By the end of the story, the library has burned down, and that just makes me sad. He didn't do anything to deserve that. He just liked to know everything that was going on with his books. And then there's an episode where a man comes home after lending out his house to find it filthy and progressively becoming more and more disgusting, until it eventually takes him over as well. Sure, he comes across as a bit of a jerk, but that hardly warrants your house turning into sludge. In other words, my mind isn't suited to this type of storytelling. In the story I mentioned earlier about a young girl getting hit by a car, the brother who was driving hides her body and eventually turns into a rock monster while he's still alive. This one is at least justified in that he did a bad thing and a bad thing happened to him. But then, of course, you could make the argument that bad things happen to people who don't deserve it all the time, and that's just the way that life is. And all I can say to that is I don't like it. That's why I like fiction. It's more comic. In the grand scheme of the story, the good people have a good thing in the end, and the bad people have a bad thing in the end. It's simplistic, but I like it. So, to end this video, I'll say my least favorite episodes are the 2 episodes with the boy who has nails in his mouth all the time. Especially the last one with the demonic cat. The boy keeps talking about having a curse and how this is just the beginning of the curse, and the curse will eventually grow and manifest and do something to the cat. And then the cat keeps getting more and more evil till it explodes in electricity and lightning. What is this curse? Where does it come from? What does it do? Why is it affecting the cat? Why doesn't it affect anybody else in the house? You know, I have questions. I'm also not the biggest fan of villains who look like this, so obviously creepy and bad, which is a thing in these stories. I like a gorgeous bad guy, or like unassuming. There is a story with a beautiful young girl who is bad. She has a weird head growing underneath her hair. It's never really explained what that's about, but I think her whole thing is she just grows new heads. In the end of the episode, her head is cut off, and then another one just starts growing back. So I think that's just her thing, is that she grows extra heads. Or maybe her head is always growing. Like once her head reaches full size, another head starts to grow. So you have to cut that one off so another one can grow. But in that episode, the main character does kind of have a happy ending in that nothing really bad happens to her, really. And she's alive and intact. So that's a good one. Anyway, clearly it's time to end the video. I enjoyed this one and I hope that you did too. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. I'm Kayla. See you next time. Bye.